two shlokas will be in describing the glories of Ramchandra. So here in this section of Bhagavatam, we have Lord Brahma remembering various incarnations of the Lord. The chapter of the title of the chapter itself is the scheduled incarnations of the Lord. In these two shlokas, Lord Brahma, he is remembering the super heroic activities of Lord Ramchandra. And then what happens? Lord Brahma, he is remembering Krishna, and then he really goes into ecstasy. Then the rest of the chapter is just talking about Krishna only. So you can see, Lord Brahma's, heart. As soon as Krishna Lila comes, he completely forgets everything. So today we will discuss the two shlokas of Ramchandra. And then he really goes into ecstasy. And then when he starts about Krishna Lila, we will speak, maybe there is a time, we'll cover 1 or 2 slok of Krishna Lila. And then from next few weeks, we'll just talk about Krishna Lila. Again, we have a Krishna Darshan program, every Saturday. So there anyway, we are discussing Krishna Lila. So for Bhagavatam, we'll go a little faster when Krishna Lila comes, because we're anyway covering on Saturdays. So we'll go a little faster from next week onwards. So today we'll begin now our discussion. So Manjunath Prabhu, if you would like to recite Shloka 23, please.
Hare Krishna, Guruji. Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Text 23, translation. Due to his causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his plenary extensions, appeared in the family of Maharaja Ikshvaku as the Lord of his internal potency. Sita, under the order of his father, Maharaja Dasaratha, he entered the forest and lived there for considerable years with his wife and younger brother. Ravana, who was very materially powerful with 10 heads on his shoulder, committed a great offense against him and was thus ultimately vanquished. Purport. Lord Rama is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his brothers, namely Bharata, Lakshmana, Shatrugna, are his plenary expansions. All 4 brothers are Vishnu Tattva and were never ordinary human beings. There were many unscrupulous and ignorant commentators on Ramayana who present the younger brothers of Lord Rama as ordinary living entities. But there are, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the most authentic scriptures on the science of Godhead. It is clearly stated that his brothers were his plenary expansions. Originally, Lord Ramachandra is the incarnation of Vasudeva, Lakshmana is the incarnation of Shankarshana, Bharata is the incarnation of Pradyumna, and Shatrugna is the incarnation of Aniruddha, expansion of the personality of the Godhead. Lakshmi ji Sita is the internal potency of Lord and is neither an ordinary woman nor the external potency incarnation of Durga. Durga is the external potency of the Lord, and she is associated with Lord Shiva. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 4.7, the Lord appears when there are discrepancies in the discharge of factual religion. Lord Ramachandra also appeared under the same circumstances, accompanied by his brothers, who are expansion of Lord's internal potency, and by Lakshmi ji's Sita Devi. Lord Ramachandra was ordered by his father, Maharaja Dasaratha, to leave home for the forest under the awkward circumstances, and the Lord, as an ideal son of the father, carried out the order even on the occasion of his being declared the king of Ayodhya. One of his younger brothers, Lakshmana ji, desired to go with him, and so also his eternal wife Sita ji desired to go with him. The Lord agreed to both of them, and all together they entered the Dandakaranya forest to live there for 14 years. During the stay in the forest, there was some quarrel between Ramachandra and Ravana, and the later kidnapped Lord's wife Sita. The quarrel ended in the vanquishing of the greatly powerful Ravana along with his kingdom and family. Sita is Lakshmi ji, or goddess of fortune, but she never to be enjoyed by any living being. She is meant for being worshipped by living being along with her husband. Sri Ramchandra, a materialistic man like Ravana, does not understand the great truth, but on the contrary, he wants to snatch Sita Devi from the custody of Rama and thus incurs great miseries. The materialists who are after opulence and material prosperity may take lessons from the Ramayana and the policy of expert in nature of Lord without acknowledging the supremacy of the Supreme Lord is the policy of Ravana, is this policy of the Ravana. Ravana was very advanced materially, so much so that he turned his kingdom, Lanka, into pure gold or full material wealth. But because he did not recognize the supremacy of Lord Ramachandra and defied him by stealing his wife, Sita, Ravana was killed, and all his appearance and power were destroyed. Lord Ramachandra is the full incarnation, 6 appearances in full. He is therefore mentioned in the verse Kalesha, the master of all appearances. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Uncle. Thank you. Thank you. This translation again. Due to his causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with his plenary expansions, appeared in the family of Maharaj Ikshvaku as the Lord of his internal potency. Sita. Under the order of his father, Maharaj Dashrath, he entered the forest and lived there for considerable years with his wife and younger brother. Ravana, who was very muchly powerful with 10 heads on his shoulders, committed a great offense against him and was thus ultimately vanquished. Hare Krishna. So in this one shloka, Lord Brahmaji, actually, he remembered the whole Ramayana, right from the appearance of the Lord and his pastimes in the forest, and how he vanquished the Ravan, the king of Lanka. So Brahmaji, he starts with the line, he says, due to his causeless mercy upon all living entities within the universe. So out of his causeless mercy, the Lord appeared as Lord Ramchandra. Now we all know the Ramayana is one of that epic story which however many times you hear, however many times you read, it never gets old. In fact, every time you hear Ramayana, it just gives so much pleasure and so much satisfaction and the peace in our heart. Whenever there is a Ramayana is recited, the majority of the audience, 99.9% audience, they know the whole story. They know what is going to come after this. Still, they all sit, very peacefully with rapt attention. Oh, now this is going to be discussed. Oh, now this is going to be discussed. Why? Because these are not the ordinary story. Lord is ever youthful. Lord never gets old. Similarly, anything connected with the Lord, his story, his paraphernalia, story is Lila, paraphernalia, his dham, anything connected with the Lord, it never gets old. It is ever fresh. So whenever we discuss Lord's pastime, it is ever fresh. So here, Lord Brahmaji, he is remembering the Lord's appearance in this world. And he particularly says he appears with his plenary expansions. So Prabhupada, in the right in the purport of this shloka, first paragraph, he mentions that all 4 brothers, because Lord Ram came along with his 3 brothers, Ram, Lakshman, Bharat, and Shatrughna. And here it is mentioned, they are all Vishnu Tattva. All 4 of them, they are Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ram is the expansion of Vasudev. And Lakshman is Sankarshan. The Bharat is Pradyumna and Shatrughna is Aniruddha. So all 4 of them, they are Vishnu Tattva. It's not that the only Ram is God. All 4 of them, they are Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the Ram, he is does this special, pastime of going to the forest and fight with Ravan. And then Prabhupada, he explains about Mother Sita. That Mother Sita, she is the internal potency of the Lord. The Lord has two potency, external potency and internal potency. So whenever the Lord comes, he comes along with his internal potency. So Sita is his internal potency. So she is not an ordinary lady. Then we also get the information, what is Mother Durga? So Mother Durga is Lord's external potency, Bahiranga Shakti. She is in charge of the material world. And internal potency, she is in charge of the spiritual world. And here in this material world, Mother Durga, she is associating with Lord Shiva. Again, Lord Shiva, he is the Lord's expansion. It's like Vishnu Tattva and Shiva Tattva. So Vishnu Tattva, we can say, it is like a milk. But when a milk is turned into a yogurt, it becomes a Shiva Tattva. So they both are, the source of Shiva Tattva is Vishnu Tattva. So they both actually they are same, but at the same time they are not same. The yogurt and the milk, they are both same, but at the same time they are not same. So it takes a little time to understand this concept. So the Vishnu Tattva and Shiva Tattva. So the material world, it is under the supervision of external energy of the Lord, and that is Mother Durga. And then Lord Shiva, he is the master of Mother Durga. So you see, many of the pastimes also happens, between Mother Durga and Lord Shiva, and many battles also happens within this material world. Again, Mother Durga, she is the external energy of the Lord. Again, she is not an ordinary person. She is the external potency of the Lord. And then Lord Ramchandra, then in this shloka it is mentioned that he was he had to enter into the forest for 14 years. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, just read a couple of lines. Lord Ramchandra was ordered by his father, Maharaj Dashrath, to leave home for the forest under awkward circumstances. The Lord, as the ideal son of his father, carried out the order even on the occasion of his being declared the king of Ayodhya. So, my dear friends, this particular instance or the pastime of the Lord, when the Lord, he, on the request or the order of his father Dashrath, he gives up his own kingdom. So the story goes that the Maharaj Dashrath, he is the king of Ayodhya. Ayodhya, it is the most opulent kingdom at that time. Again, Ayodhya, we understand from the scripture, Ayodhya, actually real Ayodhya exists in the spiritual world. And when the Lord comes, he brings that spiritual world along with him. And Ayodhya has his own opulence. Like the other day we were discussing, when Krishna comes, Krishna brings along with him Vrindavan. So whenever the Lord appears, Lord brings his own abode along with him. So yesterday we were talking about the opulence of Vrindavan, how Vrindavan is so opulent. Similarly, Ayodhya is also very, very, very opulent. So Ayodhya is the mega city, and and everyone, it is with the law and the order, it is the highest, and people are absolutely happy in the kingdom of Maharaj Dashrath. And then they were very happy that Lord Ram is going to be the next king. So Dashrath Maharaj, he wanted to coronate Lord Ramchandra as soon as possible. So, it was advised to Maharaj Dashrath that let Ram be the king. He immediately made all the arrangements. And he was about to become king of Ayodhya. But the story goes, the one of the queen of Maharaj Dashrath, Kaikeyi, she wanted her son Bharat to be the king, and she asked, because she owed Maharaj Dashrath owed 2 benedictions to Kaikeyi. So she asked that Lord Ram be banished to forest, and Bharat become the king. And then Maharaj Dasharatha didn't want Lord Ram to leave, but because it will help Maharaj Dasharatha, keeping his promise, he willingly left Ayodhya. In this day and age in Kali Yuga, no one can do this. Here the brothers or the son will fight in the court for a very petty sum of few thousand pounds or a few hundred or million or $2 million. This is willfully mine. I am the inheritor. This belongs to me, and they'll go to the court and and just for the insignificant amount of wealth, they'll sacrifice all the good relations with the brothers and sisters and relatives. But this is Ramayan. In this Ramayan, the highest standard of human living, the principles of human living is mentioned in this Ramayan. So Ram, with this particular episode, he establishes what is the best son. How the son is so much concerned about the welfare of his father. He said, if my going to the forest will help my father to keep his promise, let it be. If you look at justice-wise, it was complete injustice to Lord Ram. The kingdom, the subjects, all the Ayodhyavasis, they wanted Ram to be the king. And he was the right king, he was the right inheritor. Everything was in favor of Ram. But he says, nothing else matters to me. If my going to forest will help my father to keep his promise, I will help my father. And he willingly, without any reservation whatsoever, he left Ayodhya and went to the forest. So when he left, his brother Lakshman, he said, Lord Ram, I also come with you. Ram gave so many arguments he should not come. But, he did not agree. And Lakshman came along with Lord Ram. And then Sita, she said, my Lord, I'm just like your shadow. I cannot be separated from you. So Ram said, no, you are the princess of the great king, Maharaj Janak. And forest is not meant for the ladies to live. You says, this is for me to go to forest. You stay in the palace. Says, no, Ram, wherever you are, I will come. She also joined Ram. And then the Ram, he spent, 14 years in the forest. And he first went to Dandakaranya forest and then to the Panchavati, which is in the current day and time, it is the city called Nasik. That's where Lord Ram stayed. The last year of his 13th year of his exile. And then after that, Prabhupada mentions that there was a quarrel between Ram and Ravan. And Ravan kidnapped Mother Sita. So, and Ram, he destroyed the whole kingdom of Lanka and the whole Rakshasa race practically, just to reclaim his own devotee. Sita represents internal potency of the Lord. And we as a spirit soul, we are also part and parcel of the Lord. We are also in a way internal potency of the Lord. So Lord, he will do anything for his devotee. And Sita represents that devotee, that energy of the Lord. When Sita was kidnapped, Ram, you will see the whole Ramayana. Next shloka is about, how he was about to dry up the whole ocean if the ocean did not give him the way to go to Lanka. So the Lord, he does for helping his own devotee, for the pleasure of his own devotee, he will do anything. When we say anything means anything, there is no limitation to the Lord, what he cannot do. He'll do anything. And then Prabhupada mentions in the ending part of the purport that Ravan, he was a very highly elevated materialistic person. He was so opulent and wealthy that his own kingdom, the whole of his kingdom, was made up of gold, pure gold, no concrete, no glass, but pure gold. But he was puffed up of his power and his opulence. And in this puffed up, when you are puffed up, when this puffed upness come, when you do not recognize the supremacy of the Lord, he thought all because of my power, I have earned this, I have created this, is because of me that it is there, I am holding it now. But the devotee, he recognizes that everything belongs to the Lord. I may be given a temporary possession for the time being, for me, to use for my benefit. Right now we have this body. Who gave this body? We did not create this body. The Lord gave us this body. So this body is given by the Lord. It should be used in the service of the Lord. My education, my qualification, where does this intelligence came? Where does this power to understand the complex science and electronics and all came, or medical science came from? I did not create this. The Lord gave this intelligence. And because of that, I have this particular certificate. I'm IT engineer or medical doctor or a lawyer or whatever, qualifications that we have. So we recognize what my intelligence, my qualification, my achievements that I have, it is because of the Lord. I was just given, to use it for my own purpose. So we recognize the supremacy of the Lord, that it belongs to the Lord. So whatever we have in this world, everything comes from the Lord. And when when we are given these facilities, and when we don't recognize the supremacy of the Lord, then we get puffed up. We think, I have this big business. It's all because of my business acumen. I understood the market. I made the right decision. And all because of me. I'm a big businessman. I'm a big IT engineer because I understand computers like this. And I understand the market trend. So forth and so on. And then you become puffed up. It's all because of me. So Ravan was one of that. He had so much opulence. Can you imagine his whole city, his whole kingdom of Lanka was made up of gold? How opulent he is, how much gold we have in this world, maybe a few tons, and all the countries are, think, oh, we are very rich, we are rich. The Lanka's whole kingdom was made up of gold. And Ravan, he had so many siddhis, he was a very powerful person. And he thought it is all because of my power. And he was puffed up. And in that puffed up condition, what living entities does is that he challenges the supremacy of the Lord. Rather than recognizing the supremacy of the Lord, the puffed up person, he challenges the supremacy of the Lord. And in that, when he challenges that is the beginning of the end of his whatever he has achieved in his life. So Ravan, in his puffed up condition, he stole Mother Sita. And Sita, she's, here Prabhupada says, Lakshmi ji. She is the internal potency of the Lord. And Lakshmi ji, she is, her only desire is to serve his master. Who is Lakshmi ji's master? Narayan or Ram or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. When you keep Lakshmi ji away from the Lord, she becomes very upset. So in this world, Prabhupada mentions that everybody is after material opulence. They want Lakshmi, but they don't want Narayan. They don't want Ram. Everybody wants, I want some good wealth, I want some big house, I want these achievements and also what they all want Lakshmi, but they don't want to become God conscious, which is the master of Lakshmi ji. So one of the name of Lakshmi is Chanchala, that you can have, the benediction of Lakshmi for some short time. She'll come. But if in your house, if in your life, there is no worship of Vishnu or Narayan or Krishna, then she won't stay for too long. She says, oh, this house has got no worship of Narayan. My master is not here. What is the use of me staying here? And after some time, she leaves the house. So Prabhupada mentions here, if we ever want to have the benedictions of Lakshmi, you have to become the servant of Narayan. Then she'll be more than happy. In fact, she'll be willing that, when can I come to your house? I want to stay in the house where the worship of my master is going on. And she's, in fact, here, in the Shastras, the Acharyas explain that Lakshmi ji, she stands with the folding hand outside the devotee's house. That my dear devotee, you're a wonderful devotee of my Lord. How can I serve you? How can I please you? Please engage me in the service of my Lord. So the whole world is after Lakshmi, but when the devotee is engaged in his devotional service, and Lakshmi wants to come and serve that devotee. So this is that great understanding of how exactly we can serve the Lakshmi Devi. So Lakshmi ji, again we reiterate, she is happy to come, in our house as long as we are serving very nicely her master, Ram, Krishna, or Narayan, or Vishnu. When you become devotee of the Lord, then she comes. You don't have to invite her; she'll just come. So Ravan, he did not recognize the supremacy of the Lord, and he just snatched this Sita Devi, and that became the source of his downfall. His entire dynasty was vanquished. Not dynasty, Vibhishan was still alive, after the end of the war, but it was completely destroyed. His kingdom was destroyed. Now let's move on to Shloka 24. So somebody can read translation and purport of Shloka 24.
Can I do that, Rohitji, please?
Yes, Meena Mataji, go ahead.
Thank you. Hare Krishna, everybody. Shloka 24. Translation. The personality of Godhead, Ramachandra, being aggrieved for his distant, intimate friend, Sita, glanced over the city of the enemy, Ravana, with red-hot eyes like those of Hara, who wanted to burn the kingdom of heaven. The great ocean, trembling in fear, gave him his way because its family members, the aquatics like the sharks, snakes, and crocodiles, were being burnt by the heat of the angry red-hot eyes of the Lord. Purport. The personality of the Godhead has every sentiment of a sentiment being like all other living beings, because he is the chief and the original living entity, the supreme source of all the other living beings. He is the Nitya, or the chief eternal amongst all other eternals. He is the chief one, and all others are the dependent many. The many eternals are supported by the one eternal, and thus both the eternals are qualitatively one. Due to such oneness, both the eternals and constitutionally, they have a complete range of sentiments, but the difference is that the sentiments of the chief eternal are different in quantity from the sentiments of the dependent eternals. When Ramachandra was angry and showed his red-hot eyes, the whole ocean became heated with that energy, so much so that the aquatics within the great ocean, they felt the heat, and the personified ocean trembled in fear and offered the Lord an easy path for reaching the enemy's city. The impersonalist will see havoc in this red-hot sentiment of the Lord because they want to see negation in the perfection. Because the Lord is absolute, the impersonalists imagine that in the absolute, the sentiment of anger, which resembles mundane sentiments, must be conspicuous by the absence. Due to a poor fund of knowledge, they do not realize that the sentiment of the absolute person is transcendental to all mundane concepts of the quality and the quantity. Had Lord Ramchandra's sentiment been of the mundane origin, how could it disturb the whole ocean and its inhabitants? Can any mundane red hot eye generate the heat in the great ocean? These are the factors to be distinguished in terms of the personal and the impersonal conception of the absolute truth. As it is said in the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the absolute truth is the source of everything. So, the absolute person cannot be devoid of the sentiments that are reflected in the temporary mundane world. Rather, the different sentiments found in the absolute, either in the anger or in the mercy, have the same qualitative influence, or in other words, there is no mundane difference of value because these sentiments are all on the absolute plane. Such sentiments are definitely not absent in the absolute. So, as the impersonalists think, making their mundane estimation of the transcendental world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Maharaj. Thank you. Translation again. The personality of Godhead Ramchandra, being aggrieved for his distant intimate friend Sita, glanced over the city of the enemy Ravana with red hot eyes like those of Hara, who wanted to burn the kingdom of heaven. The great ocean, trembling in fear, gave him his way because its family members, the aquatics, like the sharks, snakes, and crocodiles, were being burnt by the heat of the angry red hot eyes of the Lord. Hare Krishna. So here Lord Brahma is remembering actually the love of the Lord for his devotee. So what he is remembering, that Sita, she was in captivity of Ravan, and Ram wanted to rescue her, and Ram wanted to have a passage to Lanka, and ocean did not give the passage to Ram, and Ram became angry. Why became angry? Because this ocean was not cooperating in rescuing Mother Sita. So here actually this whole episode shows the love of Ram for his devotee. As we said earlier, the Lord will do anything, anything for his devotee. So here, actually if you see the Ram, he came as the human. One of his mission to come as Lord Ram is to establish what a human can achieve. So he did not show his, super excellent, pastimes like, those, like Krishna lifted Govardhan hill, and then, so he did not show this. He just showed as a human what he can achieve. So when it came for, the problem was to how to cross the ocean. So it is difficult to, bridge ocean. So Ram thought, let me request, ocean, that if he can give the passage, we can pass through the ocean. So he requested again for the Lord, when same Ram, he is the expansion of Krishna. When Krishna came, when Vasudeva was taking Krishna to Gokul, from Mathura to Gokul, Jumna gave the passage, even without asking. But here Ram, he is acting like a human. So he requested ocean, but he did not reply. He did not cooperate. At that time, then Ram, he became very angry. How dare you? I want to rescue Sita and you're not giving me the passage, you're not cooperating with me. Ram became angry and his eyes became very red like hot fire. And because of that anger, the whole ocean started boiling. And then immediately the personality of ocean came out. He said, "My Lord, please don't do this. I'm bound by the laws of nature, and I know you want passage to Lanka, so you can you can just put the stones on the ocean. Now make sure that this the ocean the stones will not will not sink." No, he said you have to write your name. If your name should be there on the stone. So you just put the name Ram, and it will not sink in the ocean. And then that's how they built a bridge across the ocean, and then the Ram went to Lanka. So here Prabhupada, he is so nicely explaining about the anger of Lord Ram. Now Prabhupada talks, to smash the argument of impersonalist. There's one school of spiritualists, they think the Lord is impersonal. But here Prabhupada says, if the Lord is impersonal, how can he have anger? And then he explains in the beginning of the purport that the Lord is eternal, so are we the living entities, we are eternal. But he is the chief eternal, and we are the subordinate eternal. So whatever sentiment the chief eternal has, the same sentiment we also have. But the chief eternal sentiments, they are great in quantity. The same sentiment we have in us also, but that is in minute, very small quantity. So we all, I don't know any of you have felt any anger ever in your life, but I get angry, many times. So we say everything comes from the Lord. So even the anger comes from the Lord. The Lord also has that same sentiment of anger. And when does he show his anger? When his devotees are, troubled. That time he becomes real angry. Krishna, he showed his anger. Ram showed his anger, in the episode of Sita. And the Lord, he comes in the form of Narsimhadev to show his supreme anger. Nobody can be as angry as Lord Narsimhadev. He just came in that fearful, wrathful, incarnation of Lord Narsimhadev. Why? What is the cause of his anger? Because his devotee Prahlad, he was being tortured, and Lord becomes very angry. Again, here Lord Ram, he becomes angry because the rescue of Sita was getting delayed. But Lord's anger and our anger, there is a difference. Prabhupada mentions here, there's a difference between Lord's anger and our anger. When we become angry and look at the ocean, nothing happens. But when Lord Ram, he becomes angry, then the whole ocean starts boiling. So his anger is, completely different than our anger. So we have to understand that. So here Prabhupada mentions that that all the sentiments that we have, the Lord also has the same sentiments. In fact, we get it from the Lord. And then he Prabhupada mentions at the end. I'll just read a couple of lines about the impersonalist things Prabhupada mentions here. What is it? I think I lost that point, so probably I won't take it now. So now let's go on Shloka 25, and then we stop for today. So Shloka 25, somebody can read. Just translation, there is a very small purport.
I will read. 25 verse. When Ravana was engaged in the battle, the trunk of the elephant which carried the king of heaven, Indra, broke in pieces, having collided with the chest of Ravana, and the scattered broken parts illuminated all directions. Ravana therefore felt proud of his prowess and began to loiter in the midst of the fighting soldiers. thinking himself the conqueror of all directions. But his laughter, overtaken by joy, along with his very air of life, suddenly ceased with the tingling sound of the bow of Ramchandra, the personality of Godhead. Purport. However powerful a living being may be, when he is condemned by God, no one can save him. And similarly, however weak one may be, if he is protected by the Lord, no one can annihilate him. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Read the translation again. When Ravan was engaged in the battle, the trunk of the elephant which carried the king of heaven Indra broke in pieces, having collided with the chest of Ravan, and the scattered broken parts illuminated all directions. Ravan therefore felt proud of his prowess and began to loiter in the midst of the fighting soldiers, thinking himself the conqueror of all direction. But his laughter, overtaken by joy, along with his very air of life, suddenly ceased with the tingling sound of the bow of Ramchandra, the personality of Godhead. So Lord Brahma is remembering how Lord is so powerful. So when the Lord's power is being described, you have to see what kind of prowess it was used against. So Ravan, here it is mentioned, he was very strong person. In fact, he was a very mystic. He was a yogi. He had many mystic siddhis, that he acquired. So his body was very strong. So once in the battlefield, he was fighting, and the king of heaven, Indra, he rides on an elephant called Airavat. That Airavat, Airavat struck his trunk on Ravan's chest. But Ravan's chest was so strong that the trunk broke into pieces. And then Ravan becomes very, very proud. See how powerful I am. Even the Airavat, his trunk, could not harm me. So Ravan, he was a very proud person. Um, he had many such, in fact, he was very powerful. He once, lifted the whole Kailash mountain with his hands. And he had conquered, many of the demigods in the battle. He had conquered all the all different planets and planetary systems. In fact, he had conquered the Yamraj himself. So Yamraj, could not. Yamraj is the in charge of death. So Yamraj also could not harm him. So he was very powerful person. But here it is mentioned that his life was blocked when he heard the tingling sound of Lord Ramchandra's bow. So here Prabhupada mentions that I'll just repeat the purport itself. What Prabhupada, however powerful a living being may be, when he is condemned by God, no one can save him. One can be proud of his achievements, and he can show off everywhere all over the world. But if you're condemned by the God, if Lord decides to destroy you, no power in the world can save you. And then Prabhupada goes on saying, similarly, however weak one may be, if he is protected by the Lord, no one can annihilate him. But if Lord decides to protect you, then there is no power in the whole creation who can even do a small harm to that person. In Hindi says, baal bhi baaka nahi kar sakta. You can't even touch the hair of that person if Lord decides to protect that person. So when Lord Ramchandra, when he decided to kill Ravan, however powerful, he was, a very heroic person, but he was finally vanquished. And when Lord decides to protect someone, then no one can harm that person. We see in the story of Prahlad Maharaj. He was subject to of torture like this world has never seen before. His father, his own father, such a demoniac person. In fact, Ravan earlier came as Hiranyakashipu. So he is the version 1 of Ravan. Uh, so in strength wise, Ravan and Hiranyakashipu, they are probably both equal. And Ravan, Hiranyakashipu, he tried to kill Prahlad in a way we can't even, when we hear, we will start trembling. He threw Prahlad in the pit of snakes and vicious scorpions, very highly, poisonous creatures. What is the chance of somebody surviving in that condition? Huh? But, nothing happened to Prahlad. Why? Because Krishna decided to protect him. He was thrown from a cliff, very high cliff. And he was thrown in the, from the top of that, but nothing happened to Prahlad. In fact, it said, Narsimha personally came and, he got hold of Prahlad and simply put him down on the ground. And then later on, Prahlad was thrown in front of a mad elephant, with the view that the elephant will trample him in his foot. Now, if see nothing, when elephant goes mad, my dear friends, you don't know what kind of havoc he can create. So this giant elephant, he was just subdued. He just came and offered obeisances to Prahlad. Another time, Prahlad was thrown into a boiling oil. Just a couple of weeks back, one small drop of boiling oil, it just, put in, it just, came on my body. And, it was such a, very horrible, feeling, touching of one drop of boiling oil on your body. You can't, don't try this now. But Prahlad was thrown into the boiling oil. What is the chance of somebody surviving? But no harm was done to Prahlad. So all this example is that when Lord decides to protect someone, nothing, no power in this world can harm that person. And when Lord decides to destroy someone, there's no power in this world who can save him. So here, while concluding this particular shloka, we understand that Lord, he will do anything to protect his devotee. For Ram, when Sita was captured, he vanquished the whole kingdom of Ravan. And even with all limitations, in the exile, one of the conditions of his exile was that he should not enter any city. He should not keep any army. But when with those limitations, Ram conquered Ravan and he rescued Sita. As we said earlier, Sita, is the internal potency of the Lord. And we are also part and parcel of the Lord. As a spirit soul, we are part and parcel of the Lord. And Lord also has the same, love and affection he has for Sita, the same affection he has for us. Sita was snatched away from Ram, and Sita wanted to go back to Ram. Difference between Sita and us is that we willfully went to Lanka. So we willfully came into this material world with the view to enjoy this material world. But the day we pray to the Lord, Lord, I want to come back to you. Please come and rescue me. The day you sincerely pray like this, the Lord will do anything to rescue you from this spirit, from this material world. But that willingness has to be very, sincere. So it's, no, my Lord, please come and rescue me. But I want to spend few days in Lanka. I want to enjoy. It doesn't work like that. You have to 100% say, my Lord, I'm done with this material world. I want to come back to you. Then he will make, the arrangements he did it for Sita. We will do the same arrangements for you. In fact, it is said, our acharyas explain that as soon as a living entity prays the Lord, my Lord, please rescue me. It is said the Lord personally, he arranges the rescue mission of that particular devotee. Personally, not his energy, personally. He arranges that this devotee should be rescued now. But as he said, it is all our own choice, whether we want to go back home or not. The day we say, this is my Lord, I am yours, please rescue me. Done, it's like, the powerful army of the, the Lord, and then, it's like helicopters and, drones and everything. Bum, 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 they all start come. And we have seen the devotee's life, suddenly there are certain things happening, as soon as they pray to the Lord, please rescue me, certain things started happening in their life, job becomes changed, or and family life changed, and so many things happen. He says, I don't know how these things are happening, but the Lord is personally orchestrating that rescue. So I stop here. If anybody has any questions or comments, we can discuss.